Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. So it might have been 4 months since I've last done this, and I genuinely apologize. I know you guys love this series, and the reason for its absence is that honestly a lot of the horror movies that I've been watching recently haven't scared me. When you have a channel like mine that completely centers around horror, you become desensitized very, very fast. Fear not, I have found some films that have gotten under my skin, and one of them might not even be a horror movie at all. But before we start this, I gotta pay some bills. Alright, let's get real here for a second, guys. Do you ever feel like the internet knows just a little bit too much about you? Like you look up shoes once and suddenly you're being haunted by sneaker ads across every single app you look through? Well, that's no coincidence. Websites, apps, advertisers, they're all tracking you, which can be fixed with the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark lets you hide your digital footprint and even switch your virtual location. So not only are you protected, you can access content from anywhere in the world. You want US Netflix while you're traveling? Light work. You want to catch a show that's only in the UK? Easy peasy. And if you're like me and you love finding deals, this is a game changer. Prices for flights, hotels, even subscriptions change depending on where you are. That's kind of messed up. Well, with Surfshark, you can hop around virtually and find the best rates out there. And don't even get me started on public Wi-Fi. It's basically a playground for hackers. Surfshark encrypts your data so your passwords, banking info, and private stuff stays, well, private. And it works on unlimited devices. One subscription covers everything in your digital life. I've got it on my phone, my laptop, and even on my TV. So here's the deal. Go to surfshark.com/Zeark and use code Zeark at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark for free. Yup, extra months, no strings attached. Plus, they also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose. Once again, click the link in the description or go to surfshark.com/Zeark and use code Zeark at checkout for 4 extra months free. Protect your data, stream without limits, and start browsing like a pro. Thank you, Surfshark, and let's get back to the video. I have finally gotten around to watching the film When Evil Lurks, from the director Damien Rugana, I believe that's how you pronounce it, I'm sorry if that's not correct, who we have seen before on the list with the movie Terrified, which overall I thought was a pretty decent film. I do think it had its scares and some scary moments, but I feel like it fell flat in the end and not a huge fan of like the last 2/3 of the movie. But I saw the potential, I saw the craft, I could tell that this guy knew about horror and how to get under people's skin, so I was really excited to see When Evil Lurks. I don't know why I was putting it off for so long, but I finally decided to buckle down and watch it 2 nights ago. And to be honest, I haven't really stopped thinking about it. Just in the back of my mind, there's these glimpses and these thoughts of the story that just keep coming back. I'm reminded of the movie The Wailing, kind of how that movie got under my skin. While watching it, nothing in particular really stuck out to me as terrifying, but it's like the after effect. It's the aftershock that got me with this film. It is gory, it is disgusting, it is disturbing, and let me tell you a little bit about it. In a remote Argentinian village, 2 brothers, Pedro and Jimmy, discover the mutilated body of a man who died under mysterious, disturbing circumstances. As they investigate, they uncover that the man was harboring a rotten person possessed by a demonic entity about to give birth to evil itself. And I don't want to give away too much of the story. I think it is something you definitely need to experience yourself. One of my favorite parts about this film is the lore that it has around its story and the fact that everybody kind of follows along with it and understands what's going on. It's something that exists in this world, it's something that everybody knows, and I love when movies have that baked into its story. Nothing is really doubted, everything is understood, and I found that super entertaining and kind of added to the horror of this film. It's not your typical jump scare horror movie. I find that the fear is through the disturbance and the psychological scarring that this film gives you. The atmosphere is thick and dark, and the practical effects and some of the pretty bad CGI, I have to admit, really do ground your feet in this world and make you feel like you're there for the runtime of this film. Now, if I were to get into a particular scene that really kind of got under my skin and freaked me the hell out, it's that scene where the dog attacks the little girl. Holy shit, that is one of the most brutal scenes I've ever seen. It was super realistic with the shaky cam and the violent movements of the dog, and I was honestly not expecting it. I kind of felt like it was going to happen, but I was like, nah, there's no way this movie is going to do that. And unfortunately it did, and holy shit, dude. Scene completely blew my mind. Really got under my skin, like I said. And that little girl is being thrashed around like a Barbie doll. It was insane. I would love to do a full critique of this film because I feel like the ending of it just throws the character development out the window and almost doesn't make sense to the characters that are doing certain actions. For instance, one of the characters, Pedro, he seems pretty smart throughout the film. He acts fast and he also acts on instinct, but the times that he does think about the things that he does, I feel like they're pretty smart. He's a pretty smart dude in this scenario. But there's a part where some little girl is telling him to do something, and I do not know why, for the life of me, he listens to the possessed little girl. And not even 5 minutes before he listens to this little girl, he absolutely demolishes her with a car door. And even attempts to kill this possessed little girl. And then 5 minutes later, just listens to her for some reason. And that leads to something not very good. And I did not understand why that was there. I do not think the ending of this film is very good, but I do think it is pretty scary and it is pretty creepy. And everyone in my comments seems to love this movie, and I kind of agree with them. But yeah, let's move on to the next film in this video. Now, this next movie might cause some conversation in the chat, because this isn't really considered a horror film. But at the end of the day, this is the Zeark channel, so it's my list. I don't know. We will be talking about the 2007 film Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, one of my favorite directors of all time, and Zodiac being one of my favorite films of all time. The thing that makes this movie so terrifying is that it is true. It is based on a true story. It covers a real-life investigation of the Zodiac killer. I assume you know who he is, but for the people who don't know, he was a serial murderer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area during the late 1960s and 1970s, who was never found. To this day, this dude was never found. I believe with new technology, we are finding new things out, but it's never been set in stone, pin on the paper exactly who it is. The movie follows Jake Gyllenhaal, who is a cartoonist, Mark Ruffalo as Inspector David, and Robert Downey Jr., the man himself, as a reporter. The cast in this film is absolutely phenomenal, top tier, and Jake Gyllenhaal, who is one of my favorite actors, gives an amazing performance in one scene that I will never forget. I think about it quite literally all the time. I really cannot tell you guys how much I actually love this film. I see it at least 10 times a year. I watch it so much. It's weirdly become a comfort film for me, which might set off some red flags. But let me get into why I find this movie so terrifying. And one of the main reasons is that this movie recreates the kills that the Zodiac killer performed. And one of them in particular with a couple, I'll show you a little bit right here.
It's okay. This is all gonna be okay.
Is an absolutely horrifying scene. It's one of the most horrifying scenes put to film I've ever witnessed. And not because, you know, oh, it's a murder, but because this really happened. This truly happened in real life. And because it's real, I think I put myself into the perspective of the male in this scene. And dude, it is absolute. Just imagine this happening to you. Put yourself in this perspective. There's no score. It's completely just natural sound. And oh, it makes my stomach turn every single time I watch it. And that goes for all the kills in this movie. It is absolutely horrifying to watch, just with the preconceived notion that this is all real. This truly happened. And while the rest of the movie isn't necessarily a horror film, it is more of a thriller, it is more of a crime drama. It's almost like Longlegs in a sense, but I don't even feel like comparing the two because Zodiac is just so much better. But if I were to give it any comparison, it's like Longlegs in that aspect. So if you enjoyed Longlegs, you'd probably love this film. Another scene in this movie that really gets under my skin is the basement scene, where Jake Gyllenhaal is following up on some leads. He goes to this dude's house, and what happens is one of the most tense and uncomfortable scenes I've ever witnessed in a film. It is gripping. It is filled with anxiety. You never know what's gonna happen next. I could just tell you guys one small example that David Fincher added into this scene to create such a hair-raising, anxiety-filled escape in this scene. It's when Jake Gyllenhaal is leaving the basement and he starts to run up the stairs and the tea kettle starts screeching at the top of its lungs and the score is starting to build and he's frantically trying to get out and picking up his papers and scrambling to leave, and then he gets to the door and that freaky ass dude just appears behind him because the door is locked. That is just masterpiece cinema. It is so great, down to the sound design. down to the pacing. I absolutely love this scene, and because of this movie just feels like a horror film to me. It just freaked me out. Another thing I love about Zodiac is its meticulous details, its recreation of the late 1960s and 1970s. Zodiac is one of the best movies at recreating a time period that I have ever seen, not only tonally, but also culturally and visually. If you guys have watched David Fincher's films, you would know that he is known for his obsessive detail, and he completely went all out, authentically capturing this time period. From the set design and the locations, the cinematography, the props, the costumes, even down to the fonts that they use on the paper and the print materials, it is just insane how close it follows the time period. For instance, they use custom filters and lighting to mimic the texture of 1970s film stock. And the Zodiac letters, the police reports, and the newspaper layouts were recreated from originals, often using the actual fonts and formats from the time. Dude, it's just insane. You could really write a whole entire essay about this film, and I seriously suggest all of you watch it. I know you guys are saying this is not a horror film, and I'm going to apologize to nobody. I still love you guys, but to me, this movie is scary as hell. And yeah, let's move on to the final movie on this list. Next on the list is the movie Session 9. Although this movie sounds like a Tony Hawk game, I promise you it is not. Session 9 is a 2001 horror film about a group of asbestos removal workers who start work in an abandoned insane asylum. Already, the setup of this film is absolutely beautiful, chef's kiss. I love when films are set up like this. Also, I'm reading the synopsis, and whoever wrote this absolutely cooked. The complex of buildings looms up out of the woods like a dormant beast. Grand, imposing, abandoned, deteriorating. The residents of Danvers, Massachusetts steer well clear of the place, but Danvers State Mental Hospital, closed down for 15 years, is about to receive 5 new visitors. Dude, that low-key gave me chills, I'm not even gonna lie. Seriously, who wrote this? We need to get them right in the other ones. If you do any research on horror films on the internet, specifically looking through Reddit threads, this movie comes up a lot as a underrated horror film that if you haven't seen it, you should check out. And I heightened my fedora and raised my eyebrows and I said, let me see if that's true. And yeah, this movie is super underrated and very disturbing and severely gets under your skin. As I get older and watch more horror movies, I feel like I need more psychological horror films. I feel like those really grip me. Pause. This movie was very low budget at $1.5 million, and I'm pretty sure they spent that $1.5 million on just the location alone. Because this asylum is truly the main character and is such an awesome aspect of the film that without it, I don't even know if this movie would have hit the same. And to those who are about to leave a comment saying $1.5 million is not a small budget when yes, it is. It is a small budget when it comes to making full-length films. I remember when I was talking about Skinamarink that it only had a $15,000 budget, and there were people even then in the comments saying $15,000 is not a small budget for a horror film. Sometimes, man, the YouTube comments, they blow my mind. When I do a little giggle, a little laugh, I'll just read some comments. Getting back on track here, Session 9 is a very creepy film. I honestly don't know why it affected me so bad. It really did psychologically dig into my brain. And one of the asbestos cleaners, whatever they are, power wash simulator dudes, he finds these tapes in the basement of the asylum and starts listening to them. And it's like an interview or sessions, plays into the title a little bit, of this certain person who was checked into the ward who has a multiple personality disorder, split head ass. And I'm not going to give you guys specifics because truly, I genuinely mean this. I say this a lot. You need to go into this movie blind. How many times have I said that in my whole entire YouTube career? And this time, I truly, honestly, really do mean it. I do not want to spoil anything. And there's going to be a lot of people who don't like this film, and that's okay with me because it's my list. And I did find this movie very scary. But the tapes were just disturbing. They truly were. The voices coming through the speakers on my TV were sending chills down to my tippy toes. It leaves like a dark atmosphere when you finish the film. There's a specific line at the end that really gets you. And I've also seen that there's some sort of alternate ending, so keep that in mind when you watch this. You can look up and find an alternate ending. I didn't see it yet, but I have seen people discussing that it does exist. The low budgetness really adds to this film. It's very digital looking. And this movie has one of the greatest line deliveries I've ever heard in my whole entire life. Here, take a listen.
Hey, fuck you.
I know this part of the video seems almost like a comedic bit, like I'm not really taking this too seriously, but you really need to watch this movie, and you need to go into it at nighttime by yourself and lock the fuck in. I promise you, at some point you will feel some form of uneasiness, and if you're like me, you'll feel it for days on end. I'm still thinking about this film, and I watched it about a week ago. No Bobby Schmurda. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and leave some comments on some videos that you want to see from me. I don't know what the next video will be. I'm sorry this video took a month to come out, but yeah, I'll see what else I can throw into the pipeline and upload for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, great night, and goodbye.